NFR Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to NFR's award show. This is a community day, so a day, where me and Lou just take it easy. We go through the year and, we could just fucking talk shit. So Lou, introduce us into the rest of the episode. And not only that, guys, but before I let Lou talk, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification tab. And for all of these picks, if you guys want, keep up a list with us and drop them in the comment section. I'm going to remind you guys towards the end, but Lou, take us into the episode.
Yeah, so we have 10 categories to go through, and we have 4 nominees for each category.
Crazy.
And 1 winner, of course, for all these categories. And it's been a hell of a year. And I want to ask you, what surprised you the most about hip-hop in 2020?
We get towards the end of the year, and we if you were looking at it from a standpoint in May, you wouldn't have thought the guys that dropped would have dropped. That's what I'm trying to say is I'm super happy I was able to hear from guys like Big Sean, Logic, Benny the Butcher. We also ended up getting a Kid Cudi album. So listen, 2020 has actually had a solid amount of value. Not only that, but it's been the year for the underground. Look at Shane Noir, look at Freddie Gibbs, look at the whole Griselda movement. These guys are dropping. So I was happy, but there's a bit of a complaint with me, and it's that I didn't hear from the big three. Well, I did hear from one of them. I did hear from Drake, but it was more of a Lucy's.
And we got J. Cole's Lewis Street 2-song EP, which wasn't much, but it was kind of enough to carry me over through the year. The biggest surprise for me was probably, like you said, that so many artists ended up dropping, because I didn't expect to see much this year, and I got a lot more than I expected initially. And I have to salute these artists for dropping, just because, especially during these difficult times with COVID and all this shit, people need music. Music is therapy, and I just have to salute these artists for putting out, a lot of dope music this year.
Absolutely. And also salute to them for taking the risk on this, right? Because we all know artists don't have access to the roles that they've been able to do before. People want to promote albums, but at the end of the day, hey, it is what it is. And not only that, but I wanted to ask you, we always look at hip hop and we always see how it progresses as a genre over the year, right? So do you think that the hip hop genre as a whole has grown for the better or worse this year?
I think it's grown for the better in the sense that there's a lot more attention on lyricism. Just because there wasn't many trap albums that had dropped this year, and I feel like the newer audiences are kind of getting more adapted to lyricism and to different kind of styles of production. And it's a good thing just because their tastes are becoming more diverse.
Well, we used to see back then in trap, artists would drop, 3 fucking EPs or whatever it is a year just because they would be able to capitalize, right? But we're still we're starting to see a huge push from, let's say, collectives like Internet Money or, Future still dropping albums. Mm-hmm. We didn't hear from Young Thug yet, but we're probably going to end up getting that YSL tape, hopefully, by the end of the year. Also, you talk about Stunna for Vegas, the baby. There's a bunch of guys dropping, but it's not necessarily as potent as it was back then. They still have their fan bases, but it's nowhere near to where it is now. So I think that's fitting to just introduce the year and also go into a new one, new beginnings. It's going to be fucking awesome. 2021, loads of positivity. But let's talk about the categories we have here.
Yeah,
we have 10 of them, so go ahead.
We have 10. The first one's a big one right off the bat, and it's the best new artist of 2020. And we decided to go with artists in terms of nominations that really had huge 2020s and that really broke onto the scene. So I'll announce the nominees, and then you can kind of decide how easy it was for you to choose our winner. So
absolutely,
we have Pop Smoke, we have Don Toliver, we have Jack Harlow, and we have Shane Noir.
So this was a hard one because when we were going through our best new artists of 2020, guys, we wanted to make something diverse. And we also wanted to make something that was going to be, cater to all fan bases, because obviously when you choose something like this, yes, you could overcloud it with numbers and shit, but when we have a nomination like Shane Noir in the room, it gets pretty exciting, right?
It does.
So Lou, tell me what went into these nominations, and after that, actually reveal our winner, man.
Like you said, man, it was the people that made the biggest waves throughout the year, and we also wanted to shout out at least one kind of more underground artist, and that was Shane Noir, who dropped As God Intended. Fantastic album.
Crazy.
But to me, the best new artist of 2020 was Pop Smoke. He just took the industry by storm, and it's just such a tragedy that he had to pass away just because, he gave us 2 phenomenal albums, and he really popularized the drill scene in New York.
Absolutely. The drill scene is going absolutely viral right now. There's so many different sounds of drill that are emerging right now into the market just because the demand is going up, and Pop Smoke is a fucking legend. This guy would have been making music with the best in the industry. He would have been putting up the numbers to do so. Mm-hmm. And not only that, but he had the versatility of it. And I remember when we did our first review when we were still doing audio podcasts on his posthumous album, and we had said it that this guy had the talent to really lead a genre and to be able to revolutionize hip hop for the better of it. So it was obviously a sad passing, but listen, guys, our best new artist of 2020 is going to be Pop Smoke. Rest in peace. Let's move on to the music video, man. There has been a lot of good music videos in 2020.
And it's difficult to shoot a video amongst the fucking pandemic as it is. So, I mean, these people really put in the work to craft these, you know, these small films, if you will. And our nominees are Laugh Now, Cry Later, What's Poppin', WAP, and The Box.
Yeah, we got some pretty heavy fucking nominations in here, and all of these songs went absolutely viral. But bro, we have to give it to someone that's Laugh Now Cry Later by Drizzy Drake, bro. That video was so fucking cool. All of the influencers coming together, the Nike branding. This guy speaks and spells money, man. This guy does not stop. So take us through the music video, and not only that, who was your favorite fucking guest feature in that music video?
My favorite guest feature?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh shit, man. I think it had to have been Drake's boy that kind of consoles him when he's crying in the middle of the video.
Bro, what's that influencer's name, man? How am I not remembering this, bro? He's on Twitter. Does anyone have that in the back? Does anyone know?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's Drewski.
Is it? Yeah, Drewski? It is Drewski. It's definitely Drewski. Okay. No, I got. I would probably go Marshawn Lynch. Marshawn was in there, eh? Yeah, of course he was. Yeah, he bodied Drake, but whatever.
But yeah, but that's the thing, is that there was comedic elements. There was, of course, the Nike branding. And another thing that I think kind of just brushes past people is the fact that in the video, we see Drake kind of playing a bunch of different sports and kind of excelling at them at first. And that kind of speaks to his own career, just because he's a chameleon and he can kind of wear any hat. He can dive into any subgenre he wants to. So there was kind of that double parallel between his career and, you know, him playing all these sports. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, not only that, but putting his name next to all these big influencers and stuff, saying like, okay, listen, I could play in whatever league I want. But then obviously they embarrass him and they show who the true winner is. But it was a crazy video, super creative. Even Dirk did his thing. I know that. I like that whole thing of the rookie card thing, where they were like holding the balls like that.
That was dope. It was super well done, man. Even the way that the video starts, where it's like, you know, Drizzy's pulling up to the Nike headquarters
and a Maybach that hasn't even
Maybach, and the cameras in the back seat. It was very cinematic, and it was really well done, man. And the video is almost already at 200 million views after just being out for a couple months.
That's fucking crazy, man. Okay, let's go on to the verse of 2020. This is a big boy category because we had some hot fucking verses that dropped. So Lou, take us through the nominations, and then after that, I'm going to lead up with the winner on this one.
Yeah, so our nominations are, this was really tough, by the way, to narrow down only 4 verses. Yeah. But Ghost of Soulja Slim by Jay-Z, Dangeroo Kipawa Freestyle Verse 2 by Ab-Soul.
That was fucked.
Meditate by Jid. He fucking went off on that one. And lastly, Fear of God by Conway the Machine, his first verse on that song, which was breathtaking and an amazing way to start off From a King to a God.
Absolutely. Okay, so listen. These are all really fucking strong verses. One of them has to be Ab-Soul coming out of retirement and fucking dropping one of the most beautiful verses I heard all this year.
With that beat switch as well, which was fire.
Conway's From a King to a God is already a beautiful album enough, and what better way to introduce it with Fear of God, verse 1. And then after that, we had Meditate with Jid. Bro, okay, we'll talk about that after, but listen, we got to talk about how Jay-Z stole the slow. Listen, Jay-Z's 50 years old and he's still getting verse of the year. Yep. This guy is still getting verse of the fucking year. This guy is creating timeless music and he's still doing it. So Lou, talk to us about Ghost of Soulja Slim and tell me why it's our pick already.
Yeah, it has to be our pick just because, I mean, Jay-Z is, of course, a billionaire. You know, he went from the Marcy housing projects to becoming one of the wealthiest people on the planet. And he's done it all also just in terms of hip hop, right? He has 13 studio albums. He's sold over 50 million records worldwide. And he's at a position now where, you know, he just dropped 444, which is a super mature album and would be an amazing way to end off his career. But, you know, he knows that his skills have not dipped in any way, shape, or form. So what does he do? He decides to hop on Jay Electronica's album, and he actually leads the album with his first verse on Ghost of Soulja Slim. And what a fucking fantastic verse it was, man. Just to hear him open the album. And what's crazy is that Jay-Z opens the album and he also closes off the album with the song Apitta. So I was blown away with what Jay-Z did and the way that he came in. And it reminded me kind of his verse on What's Free by Meek Mill, where he's just spitting serious game. And I loved every second of it.
I got to agree with you. I think that Jay-Z is in a league of his own and he will continue to be in a league of his own. I think this is the best verse of the year just because it's that, like, the verse of the year is never really talked about. We'll see a lot of discussions around the songs, we'll see around the albums, but no one really understands what the verse of the year is because there's so many verses, right? And obviously we have a limited amount of verses we could fucking include in this, but this one hit home because it was the first verse of 2020 where I sat down and I was like, holy shit, this is absolutely insane.
Yeah,
and it started my year off on such a good note. And then not only that, but you were able to hear how him and JLEG did their thing on that, and
the chemistry they had, man.
It was
and
just so good.
Also just how much like content matter Jay-Z packed in a verse that was just about a minute long, where he talks about how we're in an era now where due to cell phones and just technology, we were able to catch, let's say, police officers doing acts of brutality and shit, and how he was in an era where the cops would get away with that kind of shit. So he's talking about the gaps in the generation, and also how like he doesn't sell his soul to anyone, but people sell their soul to him just because of his stature and his wealth. So Jay-Z is just a mogul, and it's crazy to see what he's done for hip hop and what he continues to do.
Absolutely. And guys, that is our verse of the year. Shout out Jay. He's still a GOAT, man, and he's still running everything in the game right now. Absolute mogul and someone that everyone should look up to. But let's move on to the best hit song of 2020. This is a huge category. Hip hop more than ever is selling millions of records, and we see how fast people go platinum nowadays. So Lou, take us through the nominations, and I'm going to give the winner again on this, and then we'll do the other way around.
So
after.
Just to give some background information on this category, we chose songs that I think all debuted at least at number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100. So it's all really hit songs that went viral. So we have The Scots by Travis Scott and Kid Cudi. We have Lemonade by Gunna and Internet Money. We have We Paid by Lil Baby and 42 Doug, and The Box, of course, by Roddy Ricch. This was hard to choose.
Yeah, this was hard, and all of these have such an important part in new hip-hop listeners, and everyone that's coming into the 2020 decade, because we're going to see a whole new generation of listeners are going to be introduced to hip-hop in this way. And yes, people say that it's more commercial, but nonetheless, all of these songs have a fuckload of quality. But our favorite hit song of the year was The Scots, Travis Scott and Kid Cudi, and man, what a link up that was.
Yeah, just because it was the first song we ever got from this newly established duo between Travis Scott and Kid Cudi, and Travis Scott, of course, being Kid Cudi's kind of apprentice in a way.
Yeah.
It was super dope to see them collab. And this song, The Scots, became Kid Cudi's first #1 song of his career. And it was Travis Scott's third #1 song after Highest in the Room. And I believe, what was his other hit song? Highest in the Room and Sicko Mode.
Yeah, okay.
Those were his other two #1 songs, but this became Kid Cudi's first #1 song. And I just remembered when this song came out,
the whole Fortnite thing.
Fortnite thing where, Travis put on that virtual concert, and it garnered like 12 million views on Fortnite. Like, people were locked in just because they were blown away by this concept. And I think it speaks to Travis's genius and what he's able to do in terms of marketing for his music.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get into. I wanted to talk a bit about the marketing on this song because, we look at how hip-hop artists are starting to collaborate with different brands and different companies in order to generate more impressions and more numbers for anything that they drop. We see how there's a huge correlation when artists are doing these pre-rollouts. They start doing these commercially enticing sort of events, shit that's grabbing a lot of eyes, stuff that like, oh shit, you're collaborating with McDonald's now, or like, oh, you're making your own candles now, or you see what I'm trying to say? And that the Scott started everything of that. Like, that was when people started to realize, like, holy shit, like Travis Scott, it's no longer a shoe deal, or it's no longer doing SBs. You're collaborating with one of the biggest video games in the world. And that was where you saw that Travis Scott took it from let's say superstar hip hop artist to a mogul. Travis Scott could be considered a mogul now with this song, and not only that, but it's probably one of the biggest W's in Kid Cudi's career as far as commercial success goes. You said it's his first #1, right? And just for a song with Kid Cudi and Travis Scott to go #1, that's remarkable in itself, because not only that, they didn't take away from the quality in the music. It still sounded super nice to their aesthetic, and it still sounded like a Kid Cudi or a Travis Scott song.
It did, and yeah. I loved hearing kind of Kid Cudi humming as Travis was delivering his verse. It just goes to show the chemistry that they have. And of course, the production was amazing. We heard like these crazy synthesizers at the end of the song, which was actually my favorite part, was the outro, when we just got those synths, and it really kind of immerses you into the production. And I was blown away by this track. At first, I wasn't huge on it. I thought it was kind of underwhelming. But the more I listened to it, the more I appreciated it for what it was.
Yeah,
you know?
there's definitely a nice ring to it. And not only that, but it's a consistent beat. And I love how simple it is. I feel like I'm in a submarine every time I listen to it. So, hey, whatever. It's a super cool song. It definitely deserves a place on our list. But let's get on to the best beat of 2020. Guys, I'm going to run you through all of these. So basically, how we decided to choose this, again, diverse, right? We can't go only with, let's say, some Static Selector, which you're going to see on this list, but we also have to include some Metro Boomin, right? So let me introduce you guys. We got Runnin' by Metro Boomin, which was on Savage Mode 2. We have The Blinding by Swiss Beats and Hit Boy. We have Shine by Static Selector, Mr. Solo Dolo 3 by Dot the Genius and Kid Cudi. Shout out to all of these producers / artists, because we see how important producers are coming into the genre, and we see, the type of benefit you have from getting a producer.
Yeah, especially in 2020, I just feel like a lot of artists rely on their production, and you need to have an amazing instrumental in order to carry on. You can't just make the lyrics to the talking. The music, the ambiance of the song is what really drives the listener nowadays. So these are some of the best beats, of course. It was really hard to choose our winner. One beat that I really wanted to take it but just missed it by a little bit was The Blinding, just because of how much shit was going on in that beat. And we had, I think 8 producers. We had a beat switch. We had Travis Scott's voice bleeding into the production on The Blinding. It was just perfect, but it was not enough to beat Metro Boomin's Runnin'.
Yeah, that was nuts. That sample in back just gets me every single time. And not only that, but what a way to link up and glue Metro Boomin and 21 Savage together, right? Because this is probably one of the closest songs we have to Savage Mode in the first one. So, it was really nice to see that they carried that old aesthetic and that they could still carry it, right? And not only that, but I was super impressed by the samples. And I think, 21 should go on a lot more samples, because if you look at a lot, there's definitely a lot of room for him there and that sort of lane. So we'll have to see what goes on. And, I'm super impressed with production this year. As you said, The Blinding was absolutely phenomenal. It was cinematic. You had so many different blends of sounds going into one production. And as you said, the Travis Scott vocals being blended in there as well.
But I think we have to really just, give Metro his flowers, just because he is, arguably the best trap producer of all time. He's up there with the Zaytovens of the industry.
Absolutely.
And what he did with this beat was fucking brilliant.
Absolutely.
To include that 1976, I think it was a Diana Ross instrumental. Yeah, a 1976 Diana Ross instrumental called I Thought It Took a Little Time. And the way that beat kind of just comes in, and we have the sound of old film burning.
Yeah.
And just that contrast between something that's very playful and light mixed in with the heavy 808s that came in right after. It was the beautiful contrast of something that was peaceful but also very haunting. And I don't see many other producers kind of mixing these kinds of elements into the trap scene like Metro does. And that's why he is arguably the best trap producer of all time.
Absolutely. And he's someone that's going to be remembered. And all of his productions seem memorable, right? I'm sure I could have a whole episode about Metro Boomin beats, and it would just be story after story of where was the first place I heard it and how much it slaps in the car. This is a wonderful category, because shout out to the producers. They don't get enough love, but this is something that we had to include into our list. But guys, let's go on to the best feature of 2020. So this is kind of like the sixth man of the year award for NBA and hip hop sort of thing. These are the guys that didn't necessarily own the song, but they still own the song. So Lou, take us through everyone that's featured on this, and then after that we'll go on to the winner.
Yeah, so we have Nipsey Hussle on Deep Reverence. We have Tyler the Creator on Something to Rap About. We have Black Thought on Yeah Yeah, and we have Drake on BB King Freestyle. This was a huge year for features, and there's specific artists such as Black Thought, such as Tyler the Creator, that had these huge feature runs, and we can't ignore those. But take us through our winner for this category.
Listen, when I found out Drake was going to be collaborating with Weezy again and put out BB King Freestyle, and I heard DJ Khaled sort of give us a snippet there, I was instantly sold. And BB King Freestyle is the best feature of 2020. There is not a single doubt. This just has Drake in his bag. When Drake gets into this bag, you just have to let it go. There's no one coming close to him. He just shows once and once again that his wordplay and the way he sets up his imagery is nothing like we've ever seen in the industry. And yes, we have some pretty serious lyricists on here. Example, we have Black Thought on Yeah Yeah. We have Tyler the Creator on Something to Rap About. The Nipsey Hussle's verse on Deep Reverence.
That was special.
Oh, that was a huge verse, right? But listen, This one was more low key and kind of went under the radar. But I am 1,000% sure that if this was on a Drake album, everyone would be fucking buzzing.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that like it hasn't really gotten that much attention. Like I feel like people are kind of sleeping on it, even though it is relatively new. But I just love to hear Drake on that mellow jazzy beat by Boy Wonder. And I was surprised that Boy Wonder produced that. When I first heard the song, I thought it was like a Noah 40 should be beat, to be honest. But to hear Drake on that kind of production was perfect. And I hope that it's the same kind of bag that he dives into on Certified Lover Boy. And just the way that he kind of starts off with the double entendre of I don't eat red meat, but still got beef sizzling.
Yeah.
Mentioning, of course, his ongoing beef with Pusha T and with Kanye West. Just a cool double entendre, and we get a couple of those throughout his verse. And honestly, I don't want to say he bodied Wayne, but he had the edge on Wayne in this song.
Absolutely. I feel as if, imagine Drake got that whole song. I don't mean to be disrespectful to Weezy's verse, but imagine.
I wish he did get the whole song.
Imagine he would have gotten that whole song. Holy shit. That would have been some of Drake's best material and probably is, top tier Drake material. When Drake, as I said, when Drake gets into that mode, it's a completely different song. But listen, let's get on to the best producer of 2020. So we already went over the best beat, but now we're going to start getting into our heavier
categories. This is a big category.
Oh,
here.
This is another big one. We have some really hot names in here. We have the likes of Hit Boy. We have The Alchemist, Static Selecta, and no one else besides Metro Boomin. So Lou, give us the winner and tell us why we chose him.
Yeah, I just want to give special shout outs to all of these producers, especially Static Selecta, who of course produced I think two out of the three songs on the Light Pack, and then he had the Balancing Act, which was his own album, which had amazing features, and he put together something that was amazing in terms of production, of course. Metro Boomin for what he did with 21 Savage, of course, we have to give him his respects for that. The Alchemist had a massive year, and I think that this was really a two-man race between The Alchemist and Hit Boy. But Hit Boy just, he blew it out of the fucking water, and it's also because, Alchemist has been doing a lot of producer-rapper collab albums. People have been accustomed to that, but Hit Boy really went out of his element, and you can arguably say that Hit Boy executive produced 3 of the best albums of the year.
Yeah, we have some serious albums there.
You have King's Disease by Nas. You have Detroit 2
and Burden of Proof
by Big Sean and Burden of Proof by Benny the Butcher.
Wow, yeah, that's a crazy run, and each and every single one of them was a W for him. I say, listen, honestly, the weakest out of the 3 for me is Detroit 2. Mm-hmm. It's something that hasn't stuck with me for a while, but listen, the production on there was still fucking insane. King's Disease, I remember one really big W that we put on that album. We were recording in different cities at that point. We were still doing audio podcasts. I did that in Toronto, and the biggest thing that we said was, this album has incredible production. This album has incredible production, and it's super cinematic. And then after that, of course, you got The Alchemist. He produces Alfredo, but this guy's just a fucking monster, man. He's been collaborating with underground artists for years, and it's crazy because he is a big part of this underground blow up. So Lou, I want to say this: what was your favorite Hit Boy beat of the year?
My favorite Hit Boy of the year? That's fucking tough. Honestly, I think that it would have to be one of the beats on Burden of Proof, just because it's a phenomenal album, and just what he was able to do with all those soul samples. It was really outside of his, zone of comfort. Because if you look at Detroit 2, that was more Hit Boy doing what he's done in the past, where he's making these, kind of trap type beats where there's a lot of diverse drum patterns. Then on King's Disease, you got more of a minimalistic, jazzy type of approach. But on Burden of Proof is where we really saw him master his skills by using those soul samples and by just, forming excellence. And my favorite beat from Hit Boy of the year would probably have to be New Streets or Burden of Proof, the title track.
Yeah,
what about you?
I wanted to hear Burden of Proof there. I would say Burden of Proof. I'm just a huge fan of that overall production, just because it makes me feel like I'm watching Goodfellas. That's
big time.
That's the type of vibe that I get into when I'm listening to that album, and a big part of that has to do with Hit Boy. His stuff is always sounding flawless, and shout out to him for finally having his year, to kind of take the crown.
Yeah, because he would always make hits for like singles or just loosies off of albums. But, he wasn't known for being that producer that, did collab albums with other rappers and did it in a massive fucking way. And that's what he did here. And not only that, but he also promoted a lot of different styles throughout these different albums, right? He didn't stick to one type of aesthetic in terms of production.
Imagine a Drake and Hit Boy album, a full Drake Hit Boy album, especially with the type of bag that Hit Boy's in right now. Wow, that would sound like on a BB King freestyle sort of vibe. Just a whole album full of knowledge.
But that's
and
the thing is, I don't want him to stop this
Sheesh,
run.
that's true.
I want him to keep going and just, you know.
Imagine
keep
Certified Lover Boy is all hit boy. Imagine that's the type of surprise we get from Drake. I would.
I don't know, a Drake album without a Noah 40 Shabib beat. I don't know about that.
No, he could still engineer and co-exec. Like he could still do that.
He's always in his engineering bag. Like you'll never catch a Drake.
It's
song
all of Drake's.
without.
But listen, let's get on to best lyricist of 2020. This is another heavy category because this is kind of saying like who's the best skilled MC here.
Honestly,
like, who's the wordsmith.
This was probably the hardest category to put together, to be honest, in terms of nominations. Just because, like I said earlier in the episode, a lot of lyricists came, you know, into their own on this in this year, and a lot of underground artists were big lyricists, of course. And artists that did not even make our nominations, but that I do have to shout out, include Benny the Butcher, Nas, Boldy James, and a lot more names that I'm just probably not thinking of right now.
No, for sure. And honestly, like I would have probably, listen, the one guy that I feel as if should have been on this list is Nas.
No, I don't think he tops our top 4.
No, I think I'll tell you who he tops up after we say this, but I think there's one guy we could replace here. But I'm going to go and listen, this is just for a bit of competitive sport. This is a subjective thing.
Mm-hmm.
The guy that I would replace him with is probably just as good as Lyricist. But let's go through this. We have Black Thought, Killer Mike, Conway the Machine, and Royce the 5'9".
So who would you replace on this list?
I don't think...
Don't tell me Conway. It's Conway, isn't it? No.
Bro, come on.
Conway went all fucking out this year, and in terms of just his technical ability as a rapper, he touched on every base. And not only that, but he dropped 3 projects this year. Nas dropped 1, and I'm sorry, but Conway is on the level of Nas in terms of lyricism in this year. I'm not saying overall as an artist. In terms of this year, Conway is in front of Nas.
No, I know, but I feel as if like... Come on, bro. King's Disease was a really solid album. Like there was lyricism in there. Like there was some heavy
I would
material.
put From a King to a God over King's Disease, to be honest. In terms of
that's
project.
not a hot take. Then
No, it's not.
That's
but
not
no,
a hot
still,
take.
It's definitely
you know
fair
what I'm
to
trying
put
to say?
Nas in here for sure.
You know what I'm trying to say? Like we have to include our boy Nas in here, but whatever. Listen, I guess we'll just add Nas last minute. This is the only category. Fuck it. We'll do a quick little sub in.
5th nomination. It's not a sub in. Conway stays in the list. Don't get it twisted.
No. Conway gets to stay in the list. But listen, we're gonna give this to Black Thought. Black Thought is like. This guy is so fucking sick.
He's 49 years old.
Oh my god, and this guy does everything. You just listen to the way he's able to craft his bars and everything, and the way he's able to go through. Like, you don't even have to be a hip-hop fan to know who Black Thought is and this type of work that he's done, right? And he's getting his flowers now more than anything. We're starting to hear a lot more of people saying like, okay, yeah, he's in that conversation. Like, everyone low-key knew. If you were someone that listened to the Roots early on, like you were familiar with like past material of his, you knew what type of stuff he was putting out. But if you're a hip-hop fan now, coming in from hip-hop Twitter, you probably weren't listening in that era. Neither were we heavy. But the thing is that we do know how skilled of a lyricist this guy is, and how, you could put him against any other MC, and like it's not even a competition anymore.
And in terms of just his career, I mean, he's had one of the best careers as a rapper, period, just because he's been in the game for over 25 years, has a phenomenal discography, and is part of one of the best hip-hop groups ever with the Roots. And then, when he's kind of getting older and people think that it's done for him, he comes out and he starts releasing Streams of Thought. And this year we got Streams of Thought Volume 3, which was delayed after I think it was in June, it was delayed, and then it came out in August, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But he just blew me away with that project. And the singles especially that came out before the album blew me away.
Fantastic.
We had Thought versus Everybody, and we had Good Morning.
Thought versus Everybody is a very big highlight song in my ear. I have that song in my rotation constantly, and to be honest with you, I don't think it's a question of Black Thought being the best lyricist. I feel as if he's also the most consistent lyricist. Like,
definitely.
You'll never find him putting up a corny verse, or you'll never find him not saying something impactful or powerful. That's another thing, is that you're listening to the type of stuff that he's spitting, and sometimes it could be so simple that it's complicated, where he's giving you like these complex thoughts, and you don't really know how to wrap your head about it, but then he's giving you like 4 of them at the same time, like 5 seconds later, and you're just listening to him go over like these jazzy productions, and he always has a beautiful ear for that. Any Black Thought song that you go into, you'll come out of it with a different mindset, I feel as if, also, because that guy has so much knowledge to spit. For me, it's just I'm not as invested into the Lyricist bag anymore as I used to be. But this is someone that I'm still really heavily invested to, just because it's always quality every time it drops.
If anybody wants to doubt us choosing Black Thought for this category, I just want to quickly quote one of the way he starts "Good Morning." This is the first bars of the song. Yo, I'm from the home of the ghostes, water plugs and wokeness, water bugs and roaches, drugs and overdoses. How you approach this, Philly is where the dope is.
That's fine.
Those are his first fucking lines of the song. That's how he
some
starts
crazy
you
shit.
off.
No, he makes you think, man. Every time you hear a bar from him, example that, like, don't tell me that doesn't give you like, you know, sort of goosebumps every time you go into like a song like that, right? It starts like that, but oh my god.
Yeah, what I love about Black Thought is that he really makes you reflect on every bar he spits. You know, there's always deep meaning behind it, like you said earlier. And he also had arguably one of the best feature runs this year. Of course, he had Yeah Yeah on Eminem's Music to Be Murdered By. He had the Hustle, I think it's called. Let me see here. Hustle Don't Give from Chez Noir. Momentum on Russ's Chomp, which is one of my favorite features of the year. And The Healing on Static Select is the balancing act. So he was all over the place. Not only did he drop his own work, he did amazing features, and he's deservedly so the best lyricist of 2020.
Yeah, he's a big dog in there. And let's get on to our favorite song of the year.
We're down to our last two categories.
Wow, this is awesome. Yeah, let's get down to our best song of 2020. Lou, this is something where I'm kind of like, there's so many good songs that came out this year. There's so much good quality that came out this year. And, you know, if you guys watched our top 10 songs of the year, you kind of know what this is already. But listen, it's absolutely no doubt that this is the best song. That's how I'm going to say it here. Like, there's no debate for me, at least. But Lou, I want you to take us through the features. And not only that, but I have a question to ask you. Why do you think that this is our song of the year? And do you think that this is going to be a song that's going to be remembered within generations? So go ahead and answer everything I just asked you.
So I'll start off with the nominations, which, of course, very tough to put together. But we had Trade It All by Benny the Butcher. We had Walking in the Snow by RTJ4. We had The Climb Back by J. Cole. And we had Wishing for a Hero by Polo G. All phenomenal songs. All have a lot of deep meaning behind them, every single one of these. But to me, when it came down to selecting one song, wasn't that much of a debate. It had to be J. Cole's The Climb Back. If you've watched our episode on the top 10 songs of the year, we went into depth about the song. But I think that this will definitely live on for generations, just because it's a display of J. Cole's return to him being in his rapper's bag.
Absolutely. And it's kind of like the hard part for J. Cole. It's sort of the thing where, you know, the silence is broken and the giant is getting woke again, and he's going to come out and he's going to put out a ridiculously good album. And this is the intro to the fall off. This is what we're going to be getting. You know what, guys? Like, J. Cole could deliver another classic. There are talks that this may be his best album yet, because J. Cole has been aging like fine wine, man. This guy literally doesn't miss on anything he puts out now. When he wants to, he gets on, like, you know, he goes on his huge feature runs like he did in 2019, excuse me. If he wants to put out a conceptual album, and I'm just talking about the last 4 years, by the way, you listen to KOD, you listen to For Your Eyes Only, this guy's whole career has been near flawless for me. And the fact that he's saying that he's hungry now, wow. And he's backing it up, right? Because this guy dropped 2 singles that had heavy fucking weight to it. Really heavy weight to it. Lion King on Ice is really good. It's also another great standout track for me of the year. Not only that, but then you get some of Best Cole's material you get in The Climb Back. And when we were talking to J. Cole experts about this, we were talking to Colin. He was like, yeah, this is no doubt a top 10 J. Cole song of all time. Like, this is J. Cole's, some of his best writing yet. Like, this is absolutely nuts. And the fact that he's putting that in his singles, imagine what we're getting on the fall off, right? So, super hyped. Love this song. And I think it's something that's going to be remembered, in my listening at least, in 2021.
And it's just crazy that, you know, J. Cole has this hunger, like you said, in the later stage of his career, because think about how crazy that would be for him to be in his most competitive spirit for his last album. Because if we look at other artists who end off their career, I mean, maybe they lose that hunger, they lose that competitive nature just because they've already done it all. But J. Cole is showing that, you know, he maybe wants to end off in a big way and to really leave a mark with his final album. And The Climb Back, like you said, is the perfect introduction to that. He produced the song himself. And I just want to ask you, do you think that this could really be his best album?
I do think so. I think there's an immense amount of potential for J. Cole. And we've talked about a lot of J. Cole on this podcast. But, you know, right now, I got to say this. I'm super excited to listen to him. I'm super excited to see what he has coming up. And you know what? I'm gonna ask the audience: do you guys think that the fall off is gonna be J. Cole's last album? Because we put out a similar take on Twitter. You guys can leave that in the comment section. We put out a similar take on Twitter, and a lot of people are saying he should actually retire after the fall off if it's as good as we think it's going to be, because he has so much record label talent to take after. And you know what? I want to see it go down. But Lou, let's talk about the best rap album, because the album is just as good as a song. And you know, we don't get one song out of an album, we maybe get 10 to 20. So Lou, talk to us about the category, tell the people how we formed this, and you know, I'm going to introduce the album of the year winner if you guys haven't watched it already.
So like you just said, this is only best rap album specifically. So we did an episode on the best albums of the year where we included all genres, but this is specifically honing in on rap. And you know, what a year it's been. We have No Pressure by Logic, we have Alfredo by Freddie Gibbs, we have As God Intended by Chez Noir, and we have Burden of Proof by Benny the Butcher. How easy of a decision was this for you?
Night and day, baby. I knew what it was when I listened to it, and I remember I texted you the morning after I listened, because I was able to get that midnight in on the Eastern time, and I was like, bro, this is an album of the year contender. And honestly, I had to see what else was coming out that year, but I knew already when it dropped, like, this was going to be the best. It is Burden of Proof by Benny the Butcher. Guys, listen, a lot of you guys are maybe going to put other albums in front of this, but I'm going to make my case all day that this is the best album that came out in 2020. It saw someone like Benny the Butcher get out of that whole sort of, not get out of the coke lane, but dive into something deeper, more in his mogul vibe, more of a luxury sort of thing where it's full of confidence and it's boosting your ego every time you listen to it. You get wonderful features by Freddie Gibbs, by Conway. West Side Gun gave us a beautiful hook on Warpaint. You know, Rick Ross gave us a great feature as well. You know, if that's what we're going by, fantastic. Then you have Hit Boy's production. Holy dude. This was insane. This was an insane project, man. And shout out to Benny the Butcher, because this is some of the best material I've heard in the past 2 years.
Yeah, and when I first, went through my first listen, it was the first time, I think, since Pusha T's Daytona that I heard something and I'm like, okay, this has the makings of an instant classic. And I think that this album definitely has the potential to age as a classic.
That's facts.
And it's like you said, this is kind of the homecoming party for Benny the Butcher, just because I feel like this is the point in his career where, he's kind of elevated his sound. He's matured as an artist. He's brought into, more personal content, talking about, the loss of his brother, talking about the idea of fame and how it's affected him as a person. And, of course, the production. When artists, I really encourage all rappers to just hone into the studio with just one producer, because when you're only having two people's vision for a single body of work, it's bound to be more concise. It's bound to be more focused, just because you guys are sharing that vision. You have a goal, and you're more likely to achieve that goal with working with just one producer than having a different producer on every track.
Not only that, but Jay-Z looked over the whole album as well, apparently. He was like a silent exec producer, someone that gave creative decisions and that commented throughout it. And, the type of stature that Benny's going with is just, he's going to end up as a big boss one day. And you're going to see, like, and if he already isn't, by the way. And he's leading the Griselda movement right now. He's in front, I don't care what anyone tells me, he's in front of Conway, he's in front of West Side Gun, he's in front of Boldy. And, he's going to be able to lead everyone into the mainstream, because this underground coke lane is becoming so popular within hip hop, and it's more of a thing where people know how good the quality is that it's just too hard to ignore at this point. You have people dropping like Freddie Gibbs, of course, I could have made the whole argument of that being the album of the year on Alfredo. Was it really? And that's probably going to be a part of our giveaway, because that's going on right now. But listen, I'm just saying,
this is a 10 on 10 to me.
It's
flawless. You know what I mean?
I don't know about that. I gotta wait.
To me, I have it as a 10 on 10. I know it's only been a couple of months since it's been out, but I keep listening to the album and I can't find a single flaw. I mean, even if you look at how tight the track list is, we have 12 songs, 6 of them have features. It's a perfect balance between collaborators and him having his own time and his own shine on his own songs where he's alone. There's nothing that was miscalculated for this album, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it was completely different from Tana Talk 3 or The Plugs I Met, right? Because if we got anything nearly as good as those two albums, then, right, you could sort of say, like, okay, I'm happy. That's it. I'm washing my hands. He's awesome. But in my opinion, this is his best project yet. I put this personally over Tana Talk 3. in my opinion.
That's very tough. I don't know if I could say
In
that
my
just
opinion.
yet. They're both flawless projects. I don't know
In
if I
my
can go
opinion.
there yet.
I'm dead serious when I say this. This is one of the crispest, most concise albums I've heard in a while.
It's a good
And
take.
I'm being so honest with that because the production was calculated, the content matter was calculated, yet so diverse, so many personal anecdotes and so many luxury bars, witty rhymes and so much beautiful insight about Benny's life, so many personal anecdotes about his family members and raising this, getting raised in the streets. It was a perfect story. As I said before, I felt like I was watching Goodfellas. That's exactly what I felt like. And not only that, but the beat on Famous puts me in that mode too. Like that beat is super goated for me. But listen, Burden of Proof is the album of the year. But guys, I want you to leave down in the comments your album of the year and tell us why it is the album of the year. And if you're not already, please subscribe. Also, shout out to everyone in our Discord chat, guys, because in 2020 we said, fuck it, we're going to open up a Discord chat. It's somewhere where you guys can engage with us, ask us questions. We're on there, so we're pretty active on it the whole day through. So you guys could always come in, have convos with us, and we give exclusive info on our content.
So if you guys are interested in being a part of the Discord, just send us a DM and we'll send you guys the link to join the Discord.
Absolutely. So Lou, I want to ask you this, bro. What was your standout moment in 2020 for hip hop before we get off?
My standout moment, even though it's not my favorite album of the year, I think seeing what Logic did with No Pressure, the way he had that comeback and defied all the odds and just, said to his haters, fuck it, I'm going to come back and I'm going to prove all you wrong and I'm going to show you that I still have what it takes to end off with a strong album.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you. That was where I was like shocked.
Yeah.
I was shocked that Logic came back and did that. Also, as I said before, shout out to Benny the Butcher. Shout out to Lil Baby. Lil Baby's drop on My Turn was fucking fantastic.
He's the MVP of 2020 to me.
Yeah,
he
he's had the biggest year out of any other artist. But guys, thank you so much for coming into our community day. We're gonna make this more and more awesome. This is the first one we're trying, right? So you guys are gonna want to see what we have for the next month and the next month and the next one.
And also our giveaway is live right now where we're giving away Alfredo and The Weeknd's After Hours. So if you haven't participated yet, go on Twitter, like, retweet the post, and subscribe to the channel, of course. If you
Absolutely, guys. And yeah, subscribe if you have not already, if you're not even participating in it. But guys, thank you so much for a wonderful 2020. We'll see you in 2021. It's NFR Podcast.